Hey there, so today we have another review. This is courtesy of Ryan, so thank you so much from Roaring Table Brewery. Excuse the tablecloth, we just had the girls celebrated their first and third birthday, so a nice thing about having them like a month apart birthday-wise, you do one birthday, so hey, anyway. RTB Pills, Roaring Table Brewery Pills. Hops are Saphir, Hallertauer, and Tettnang. Was this the one I was listening to? Yeah, I think it was like Lane and Beth. He was talking about how he was like whirlpooling. I think whirlpooling with hops. Yeah. Oh, there you go. That memory's pretty good. All German, blah blah blah. But we made our own with a huge whirlpool edition that saturates the beer with noble hop goodness. So I think he was inspired by, I think like Austin Beer Works or whatever that brewery is that makes like world-class Pilsner. I think he was inspired by them. But anyway, they're whirlpooling this Pils to create a really distinct kind of character that he really very, very much enjoys. And, you know, starting off with this beer out of all the Roaring Table beers, because, you know, that's the cool thing now. You know, everybody's got to do great Pilsner. So why not? If there's going to be a geeky brewery, let's try their Pils out first and then see what else they do with the other stuff. So beer comes in a wonderful, oh yeah. It's got a little bit of a chill haze too. Yeah, maybe. Is this a clear beer? Looks pretty clear, but I think there's a hair of a chill haze. Yeah. Wonderful fluffy white head. Comes in a light gold color. On the aroma, and it's classic. I mean, this Pilsner malt. It's got that signature kind of, you know, noble hop character. Generally, it's like a little bit grassy, a little herbal, slightly sweet. Well, sweetness you can't really smell, but it's the impression of like a floral sweetness along with that kind of really light, kind of sweet Pilsner malt. It's got a very just classic, but it's like razor sharp. You know, sometimes you smell Pils, it's like mottled. Like this is like very like precise aromatic Pils between the hops, that really light kind of Bohemian Pilsner character. Yeah, and it all wraps around into this kind of like wonderful, like herbal, grassy, sweet tone to it. Yeah, cheers. Oh. Now I know what he's talking about. That is fun. I know exactly what he's talking about now. Wow. This beer, which is such a strange thing, this beer hits the palate with this defined hop characteristic that reminds me of like Heady Topper and not too many other beers. Like there's this, he wasn't wrong. They used very right, the saturated hop character from the Whirlpool edition. Like it's got this like just, like I mean, I hope it's not a confirmation bias, but I like immediately on the first sip, I was like, you know, sometimes you're like not quite sure what somebody's talking about, but then on the you taste it, you're like, okay, I get what you're saying. And it's so strange, you know, comparing a 5.4% German-inspired beer Pilsner to have anything to do with a saturated hop bomb that's a double IPA, Vermont style, blah, 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 Heady Topper. But it just has that. So strange. Yeah. That's crazy. Wow. I really enjoy it. So what's distinct here is that it's not only a little bit bitter, which is fine. Like I think it's within style. But it plays this line of like hop, sharp, dry, but rounded. It dances this really fine line because I find that, you know, sometimes you can do German Pils and like get it too hard, like too sharp, either between the hopping and the water treatment. This draws that line and pushes it even more with the hop saturation, but doesn't like cross the line too far. This is super tasty. I mean, like for hop heads, like this is like, woof. And I'm curious actually if the traditional German examples do taste like this fresh, because obviously they send them all the way here and they're not as rich and saturated hop-wise, but then again, they're not whirlpooling their beers, right? So with hops. So up front, it's just noticeable. Like it's hard to describe. Again, you probably need to go to the West Coast. You probably need to go to San Diego. Get a really fresh example of like a really dry, bitter, or like fresh West Coast IPA. And then the other example I give is obviously Heady Topper. And it just hits with this like saturation. You're licking your teeth, you're hitting the mouth, and it like saturates. It's very definitive. It's so weird. I don't think I can't remember the last time I had tasted Pilsner that has this kind of flavor. So it almost like draws into the realm of like IPL or something. But it's not overly bitter. It hits with a medium to medium plus bitterness. The beer is wonderfully dry. The hop character has this kind of like, it's slightly soily in a good way. Grassy for sure. A little bit of like a black tea kind of tannic note too. There's a little bit of like, oh, that's what I mean. Like it's got this vibrancy of like grass and also like the base tone of like a soily quality, which again reminds me of all like the great West Coast beer. Reminds me of the great West Coast beers like the Russian River beers that have that kind of like dryness, but also like a earthy, soily kind of hop character. Offers a really nice kind of base tone on top of the canvas of the hops. The malt here is lightly crackery. Shows a little bit of flavor, a little bit of that really kind of nice, kind of like grainy, kind of like chewing on barley husk kind of note that I get from really delicious Pilsners. Wow. The one thing about it is that the hoppiness just keeps making me want to drink more. I'm curious, like maybe after third or fourth, like, you know, second or third pint, if that kind of hop saturation sort of like overwhelms the palate, maybe. I don't know. But the first sip is like, oof, it's very refreshing. And obviously just keeps making me want to drink more. But I'm just curious, like, well, obviously they built this beer, so I assume this acclimates really well after the third or fourth pint, and so on and so forth, which is the goal of the Pilsner, right? Wow, it's just so tasty. I mean, if you're a hophead, I mean, you just have to try this. It doesn't use, like, yeah, it's Saphir, Hallertau, and Tettnang, but despite that, it still like plays into this like realm of like, oh, let's like Roaring Table. Despite just using those hops, it like has all these just beautiful, like distinct hop characteristics that really define hoppy beers for me. But specifically hoppy beers like IPA and not, sorry, I'm looking for Bell. Specifically hoppy beers and IPAs and not Pilsner. So it's very strange. Anyway, this is a world-class beer. Absolutely fantastic. It's just like slightly unique. And you think, again, that this would be too much, right? Like the way I describe it, it's like, yeah, that's not, you know, like, you know, a German person or I don't know, whatever, traditionalist would just like laugh me off like, hey, this is like absolutely ridiculous. Like no Pilsner should taste like this, but hey man, I'm enjoying it. Again, I don't know if the fresh examples ever taste like this, but there's just this very distinct kind of like saturated hop character that is so pure, but doesn't, I argue, doesn't push the line too far. Like this still tastes like Pilsner. Like, yeah, there's nothing this beer can really be other than Pilsner. So, but it just like has this amped up note that like that I don't find, right? Sort of what happens, I find, with German Pils is that like, you'll have the hop saturation, right? There'll be some of it, especially the traditional, like the traditional ones are, I guess, well constructed, like Kronbacher, blah, blah, blah. And it hits at a tone like maybe the initial hit or maybe a third of the way through a palate, and it like resonates. Here it's like earlier and like more wide. Like it has a, it's like when you throw a pebble into the pond or a rock into the pond, and it's just more. It's like amplified kind of like flavor. Like it just has a more expressive hop note without being like too bitter. So like, I hope that makes sense. It's just like more hop flavor. Like it hits earlier and like resonates longer, which is fun. So cool stuff. Very intriguing beer. This beer gets a solid. That's going to be one of the best Pilsners of the year. I mean, I can't imagine something beating it, but 97. I'm going to have to find the bell. Things got reorganized with the kids' party and all that stuff, but, oh yeah, it's up there. Jeez, what am I doing? You guys like this. All right, so enough blabbering on. 97, that is absolutely fantastic. RTB Pils. Let's go with it already. We're halfway through the year. This is the best Pilsner of 2022. Let's go.